All right.
Donald Trump should return that money immediately. He has an obligation, $1,751 per family, but we're taxed by Donald Trump.
It's time for American families to get their money back, and it's up to the Trump administration to make that happen.
He illegally took $1,700 from every American family. That's a tax on working people. Donald Trump now owes you a refund for every dollar of it.
I think our people are owed their money.
Are you going to be invoicing the president?
We should.
Yeah, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker actually did send an invoice to the White House insisting on over $8.6 billion. But Senator John Kennedy has a message for Democrats supporting this.
My Democratic colleagues are saying, oh, give it back, give it. If he gives back $300 billion worth of tariff money to the business community in America, this economy's going to roar, man.
Joining us now for tonight's big close-up is House Majority Whip Congressman Tom Emmer. So, Congressman, I got to be honest, when I heard those Democrats talking about a refund, I almost thought maybe they were talking about all the money we spend on illegal immigrants. But no, of course, they were talking about Trump's tariffs. But I think we all want to know, is the House planning to take any action in response to the court's ruling on these tariffs? Is the House going to act to maybe codify some of these things so President Trump doesn't have to go at it alone?
Well, Tommy, great question. Right now, and these Democrats, you know, they don't look at the law. They don't care what the law is. If it doesn't match with their narrative, they're going to give their narrative anyway. In this case, some of us still believe that the president was exercising the executive's rightful authority. The court found differently in a very narrow way, but this is certainly, and people have heard this is a case of first impression. You've got a split opinion as to whether this could be used for tariffs or not in the way that the president used it. I'm going to tell you, Tommy, think about this. He had an emergency that was fentanyl overdoses being caused by coming through Mexico, coming through Canada. And what did he do? He used this authority to protect American citizens. We were losing a plane load of citizens a day, Tommy. In the first impression, he was not doing anything that any other president might have done in the past. The court, whether you agree with the decision or not, we now move forward. There should not be any reimbursement. This is what it is. And guess what? Donald Trump is the master negotiator. He's negotiated great trade deals that you and I and all Americans are going to get the advantage of as we go forward. And he's going to continue to use that tariff policy that he campaigned on and that 77 million Americans voted for in order to make sure that Americans and America gets treated fairly and first.
Congressman, on that topic, I don't foresee any legislation coming out of the House or getting to the president's desk that would try to open up the opportunity to do tariffs. If you can't pass a budget, you can't pass a SAVE Act, I don't know you're going to get any help on those. President Trump more opportunity with this.
Well, and what I'm trying to do, Joey, is not get ahead of the speaker on this one.
Sure.
There may be a move to clarify the language in the law that the president was using. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't have plenty of tools already at his disposal to use to continue to enforce his agenda. And what you're talking about, we did pass the Homeland Security funding bill. We did pass the Save America Act, which would require proof of citizenship and photo ID. It is now up to the Senate that has been totally dysfunctional to get it done.
Congressman Emmer, Molly Line here. Thanks for being with us. President Trump, I think I get to ask you the most fun question of the night. Delivering his State of the Union speech on Tuesday, of course, is the president will want Congress to prioritize here in this year ahead and don't forget the midterms are coming.
Molly, this is going to be a historic speech because it's been a historic 13 months for this country and for Americans that believe in the promise of America. This president has been delivering every single day since he took office. He's going to continue to do that. I expect him to tout the victories. He's going to tout the victories of passing the Working Families Tax Cut Act, also known as the Big Beautiful Bill, that's giving Americans money in their pockets. As we speak, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on tip. You get to protect collect more of your Social Security pay. Donald Trump, he did it in his first term. He's doing it again. You saw the train wreck under Joe Biden. Inflation at 40-year highs like we hadn't seen in so long. And Donald Trump is putting the train back on the tracks. We've got economic growth. And you watch. When we get to the midterms, Molly, I'm bullish. Republicans are not only going to hold the House and the Senate, but we're going to continue to perform on the agenda that 77 million Americans voted for Donald Trump for.
Congressman David Webb here. Little, if any, progress on another topic. Little, if any, progress seems to be made on reaching a deal on funding the Department of Homeland Security. Now, look, Democrats are trying to blame Republicans for the funding fight. A little reality and what is possible here. One, is it possible?
Well, David, on that thing, the ridiculous demands include, for instance, they want to reform where all federal agents would have body cameras. Guess what, David? It's already in the bill that we passed out of the House. They want this thing called judicial warrants. You know what that's also known as? It's known as mass amnesty, which is exactly the policy that we had under Joe Biden. These are not real demands, David. This is literally just an effort to throw more stuff against the wall and claim they are leveraging the White House for reforms that, frankly, are not needed. They're already in the works. And I'm very frustrated, as you can probably tell. I'm sure that many of my colleagues are. I think it's time for the Senate to look at saying, you know what, we're done with this Chuck Schumer communist or Marxist. It's time for them to dispense with this 60-vote thing and say, look, we got to do this for the American people. The Immigrations and Customs Enforcement is already funded through 2029, David. This is about holding up disaster relief for Americans. This is about not paying the Coast Guard and not paying TSA and Border Patrol agents. This, quite frankly, is ridiculous, and it's time that 50+1 gets it across the board. It's the opening that these Democrats have left for John Thune and company, and I think they should take it.
Well, Congressman, you actually teed me up for my next question because I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. So I want to go back to another thing that I think they need to have some discussions about in the Senate, and that's that SAVE Act. Y'all did your job in the House. You already mentioned that. Thank you. Republicans on this show, they're a little wishy-washy. Doesn't feel like they're really going to go to the mat on this issue. You know, what are you telling your Senate colleagues in terms of how important this is and how important it is to get this across the finish line, not just because of the merits of the bill itself, but also to energize Republican voters going into the midterms, feeling like their representatives, their senators are actually doing something for them?
By the way, they want us to think, Tommy, that we're not energized already. I just did 3 political conventions in Minnesota. I'm going to argue to you that the Republican excitement is every bit as strong, and maybe even more so, if that's possible, than our most recent presidential election. So this nonsense about how it's not happening, I saw it on the ground. I'm tired of hearing about these cherry pickers, whether they're Republican or Democrat. Do not need to listen to me. Listen to the American people. The American citizen believes, whether it's a Republican, Democrat, or other. In fact, Democrats, more than 70% of them agree that showing proof of citizenship to register to vote and then showing a photo ID when you present yourself to cast a ballot is a reasonable requirement. This is something that the American people want. This is something that's long overdue. And if you want to oppose this, well, then I would argue you're in favor of voter fraud. You're in favor of something less than an open and honest and fair election. Its time has come. The Senate needs to pass the Save America Act.
And we can talk about Democrats all day long and their ridiculous Jim Crow 2.0, but I got to go back to these Senate Republicans. I wish they would push this harder. What do you make of Senator Mitch McConnell? Doesn't feel like he's on board with this. A lot of us are a little perplexed as to why that might be.
Well, he should be. Kentuckians are. And by the way, it is complete nonsense when you hear again that dolt Chuck Schumer spout this thing about Jim Crow. If he really believed that, then why do they require their own people at the Democrat National Convention to present a photo ID to gain admittance? Tommy, this is complete nonsense. The beauty of it for you and me is Americans are a lot smarter than these political elites in Washington give them credit on both the House and the Senate side. But I will tell you, they're asking us to fight for the things that they voted for, not to sit back and give excuses, but to fight for the things that Donald Trump campaigned on and to make sure that they become law.